We're delighted to introduce Bruce Mail here today. Bruce is one of the founders of Motorology. Motorology, I'm sure many of you know, produce outstanding products, gifts, accessories, with a real interesting twist. And we'd like to talk to those a little bit about them. But what you'll also see over my left shoulder, your right shoulder, is the awards for the Best in Show. Now, Motorology have been kind enough, they are sponsoring all the awards. So if you are a class winner or if you are a Best in Show winner, then you'll be getting one of these awards sent over to you, courtesy of Motorology, the award sponsors. So, Bruce, before we talk about your car, because also you have a car within the Best of Show arena as well, your fantastic Bentley R-Type Fastback. But before we talk about that, tell us a little bit about Motorology and what your aims are with that particular brand.
Well, it started serendipitously when I was showing a car up in Vermont, a Silver Cloud 2 drophead, which for the first time in 20 years broke down, and I had need to get a ride back to Boston, and did so with a young man in a modern R-Type Bentley, and we became fast friends from that. And then at Amelia Island the next year, Andrew Matt, who's the gentleman that gave me the ride, and I kind of bonded, and we decided to do things that were different. We're all gearheads, and we looked around and found that we had some ideas that had not been produced before. And so we sat down and we started with one of the larger markets in the collector car world, which is Porsche. And that's how we got started with not just the hat, but with a wall piece that is not a redesign, but an appearance of a 911 wall dash. And when we started, I can tell you an anecdotal thing. At our first outing at the Greenwich Concours, a gentleman walked into our booth and looked at it and said, "I've never seen anything like that." And I said, "Well, that's because it's the first one we've made." And Andrew had left on the table beneath it by accident the brass indication of a 356 Porsche that said 1600. You know, the engine capacity. Yeah. And the guy looked down and he said, "Is it $1,600? And I didn't say anything. He says, "Okay, I'll buy it." And wow. After I was able to raise my jaw, you know, that became the standard price. And it's just a question of creating things that are appreciated, both art and wearables, like the hat, that people like. And that's what we've been doing. Matt also created something called Moto Mirages, which is where the award idea came from, but a little different in that we recreate using Michael Furman, world-class photographer, his images under permission, and we put them onto an acrylic surface, and then laser cut them so that if you looked at it on a shelf, it would look like a model, a 3D model, but in fact it's not. So those are different types of products. They all seem to be related with a flair for art, car art, in fact. And that's what we have generated and we tend towards.
Okay. And yeah, they're great products. They're very original. We certainly love them here at Magneto. And obviously, with lockdown, I know you went to an awful lot of events in the US. That's not at the moment. So what's the best way for people to look at your products and buy them?
Okay, good question. I would have to say through our website, motorology.com. Everything is displayed there. We utilize a very simple and secure system for payment and shipping, and that's the best way.
Excellent. Well, yeah, please go and have a look at the Motorology website. It's a great site. They've got some great products on there, and they're supporting us, so we're happy to support them.
Thank you.
As well as the awards, Bruce, you were involved with the Concours by putting a car into the 1945 to 1959 class of Grand Tourers, and you were the winner in that particular class. And now your beautiful dark blue, I'm sure you're going to tell me what the real colour is, Bentley is in the final. So I'm going to hand over to Dave, who can ask a couple of questions about the car itself and how it came to be in the Concours.
Okay.
Oh, great to see you, Bruce, again.
Likewise.
It's a fantastic car, isn't it? I was just listening to a podcast with Chip Connor, he was asked if he could only have one car, and Chip is a huge collector, as we all know. If he could only have one car, what would it be of all his cars? And that kind of set him into a panic. He said he really couldn't have just one car, but if he did, it would be an R-Type Continental. And I think that sums it up, really. It's such a fantastic car, isn't it? Such a flexible car. And I gather it came from the UK, is that right? From none other than Gregor Fiskin?
It did. So the background is that quite a few years ago, as I grew in the hobby, so to speak, as I matured and my taste matured, Gregor was able to find an S1 Bentley fastback, which I bought from someone in California. And I really enjoyed that car. And about 5 or 6 years ago, one of the larger dealers in used Bentleys and Rolls Royces called me up and said, "I want to buy your car." And I said, "Well, it's not for sale." And he said, "Oh, I know." And I said, "Besides, you don't know anything about it." And then he reeled off the entire history of this S1, which was owned by William Holden, who was the first owner. And I said, "Well, gee, I'm impressed, but I'm still not for sale." And then he said, "Okay, let me throw a number at you." And he threw a number at me, and I started laughing because it was ridiculous. And I said, "Okay, I'll go for that." And so I sold the car to him, and I missed it. And so I decided that, the best thing next to an S1, or even better than an S1, would be the R-Type. But not knowing anything about the particulars of R-Type, other than the fact that I love their appearance, that's when I relied on Gregor Fiskin, who has been a very good long-term friend of mine and fellow racer. And my wife and I flew to London a few years ago, and we tested, I think, 8 Bentleys in and around the London area. And I liked this one drove the best, but it had a terrible color. It was Guards Red. And I didn't think that was suitable for Bentley R-Type. And when we were going over with Frank Dale and Sons, Giles Crickmay, we found that the original color was Circassian blue. And that's the color you were talking about, Jeff.
I knew I'd be wrong.
That was the original color. And so I had the car redone, not just resprayed, because, when you take the top paint off a car, you find everybody else's mistakes for the past 40 years. And I like to have a car done right. So they spent quite a bit of time, and the result is just obvious. I drive that car. I love to drive that car. A funny anecdote is that last October, for the 100th celebration of Bentley, which was held, of course, first in London, but subsequently in New York City, my son Andrew and I drove the car from Boston to that venue, and we displayed it with all the other Bentleys. And some guy came up to me and said, "Were you on the Mass Pike yesterday going from Boston to New York?" And I said, "Well, yes, I was." And he said, "And you were in that Bentley?" And I said, "Yes, I was." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I was doing 85 and you passed me."
Brilliant.
And, that's the way these cars have been made for, is to tour aggressively and nicely. And, it's just a wonderful car.
Yeah. It's got quite an interesting early history as well, hasn't it? Interesting.
And that was one of the key things that that got to me, was the provenance of it. You've read about that. Do you want me to give you the brief?
I'd say, yeah, give us a quick go through that.
So when I chose the car and we started looking at the history, I read about Mr. Burton, Montague Burton, who was the founder of Burton and Burton clothing stores in the UK. And, you know, it was stated in his obituary that if you were to buy a suit, a vest, a tie, a shirt at one of his stores, you bought the full Monty. His name was Montague. And, you know, the expression of the full Monty is so well known, I thought that was just terrific. Then I find out that he campaigned that car with his brother all over Europe, and he used it and used the average speedometer that was unique to that car and most other R types. And it just, you know, the provenance just and the shape and the condition just made it for me. After I got the car back to the States and went through a lot of the paperwork, I found a reference to a relative of his. And I emailed that relative to say that, you know, I was the new owner of their uncle's car and just wanted to know. And lo and behold, I got a response that he told the surviving members of the family, and they were delighted that the car is being used and brought back to the original color and is in a big Bentley fan.
That's brilliant, isn't it? How nice. Well, I guess it's an obvious question, is that you got rid of the S1.
I did.
And then, yeah, which is better, S1 or R-Type?
I love this R-Type.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah. It's just different. And it does everything that I would want a Bentley to do. Okay. It looks good. It runs well, is understated, not flashy, and has history to it.
Yeah. Yeah. They're wonderful things.
They are.
Well, hopefully we will see you and see the car out on an event field fairly soon, but
I
we'll
hope
see what
so.
happens. Yes, absolutely.
Very
Well,
much.
thank you, Bruce.
And I want to thank both of you for doing the Concours virtual, for doing it for the benefit of UNICEF, which has always been a charitable thing in my mind. And I commend you for your charitable concept and action.
We appreciate that, Bruce. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Good luck in the Concours, and continued success with Motorology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Take care.